Hey everyone, I'm Justine with State of Grace Tarot. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Today I have a video that is joining in on the tarot tag created by Tarot is Magic called Let's Be Tarot Friends. I thought this one was so fun and a good way to kind of dive a little bit deeper into my own tarot preferences. So I thought that would be a fun one to do. I'll link the original video in the description so anybody can join in on this one. You'll have to excuse me as I look down at some of the questions as we go through. I have them right here on my little tablet. So the first question that they have is, what type of art are you looking for in a deck? And I don't really have a specific art style that I look for. I like really bright colors. I really enjoy art that makes me feel something. Art that has something intriguing or that I have an emotional reaction to. That's one of the reasons why I really enjoy the Serpent Fire deck that I literally can't stop talking about. I'm kind of obsessed with it right now, which is okay. We all get that way sometimes, I think. I really enjoy the art style. Another deck that I really like is the Desert Illuminations deck. This is a mass market deck, but this kind of shows like the really bright colors and a lot of different tones. Like I love this teal. And one thing that I do really go for is the backs of the decks. It's just a whole vibe, right? If the backs are off, it's a little bit disappointing to me. I really enjoy a good back of a deck, but you know, the colors are really great. You know, I do enjoy a good black and white deck or some muted colors, but I tend to gravitate towards brighter color decks, that's for sure. The next question is, what do you search for in a deck? And I really like decks that have something unique to offer, like their own story or their own world. Not that I'm really in a position to learn a whole different system like the Heartwood Tarot, but one of the decks that I really enjoy is the Unicorn's Journey Tarot, where throughout this story, Mystic, the unicorn, is going through each of these cards, and each of the cards tells a story. I think it really accentuates or points out, you know, the fool's journey that is through the tarot. It's a little bit, I don't want to say more on the nose, but it helps my mind relate to it a little bit more. Whereas in, you know, the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, you don't see a fool in every card going through the journey, right? So this is one of the ones. I'm also thinking like the Journey Tarot or Under the Oak. Those are other decks that kind of have their own story associated with it and like their own world. The next question on Let's Be Tarot Friends is, what decks are you most intrigued by right now and why? And this is so easy for me. I'm really intrigued by decks that do not have any keywords in them. And the reason for that is I'm really wanting to build on my intuition right now. And so I feel like these decks really make you kind of lean in, pay attention, take a moment to really look at what you're looking at rather than have the aha reaction of, oh, Two of Swords, that's indecision, right? So a good example of this is the Ritual Tarot that doesn't have any keywords on it. It does have, I do have the version that has the keywords on the back of the card in case, you know, you don't really know what's on there. But, you know, I like these right now to be able to just really sit with the cards and read the cards rather than like trying to think what they mean as their like traditional definition. What does it mean to me in the cards that are on the table and on the spread? I also think it's really cool to be able to check my intuition a little bit and see like what was my interpretation of the card versus what the guidebook meaning is. And how did they differ, and how were they the same? What is there anything that I missed or anything that didn't really stand out to me that's pointed out in the guidebook? Oh, I still have the title card in here. So I think that's one way to really deeply learn the tarot a little bit better. Or if I'm having a bad day and I draw a card and come up with a complete blank, I can pull out the guidebook. But I'm still kind of reacting to the cards on the table. The next question is there a card in a deck you always check out first, and why? And I do have a couple of cards. Not for any particular reason. I always have to check the Justice card. I'm a Libra, so I'm always just curious how justice is depicted. This won't make or break a deck because I pretty much never like how justice is depicted. So it's just more out of curiosity to check it out and see, like, and maybe, you know, it's bonus points if I actually do like how justice is depicted. Another card, Temperance, is one of my favorite cards. And so I always like to look and see how Temperance is depicted. I really like the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of Temperance. And I like to see, you know, how other artists have depicted Temperance. But also, it won't necessarily make or break it. Another one of my favorite cards is the Two of Swords. I really like the Rider-Waite-Smith artwork. I think, to me, she feels so regal, and maybe not regal. To me, she feels so calm and contained. And yes, I know like the traditional meaning is indecision, but to me, this is somebody who's, you know, meditating. Maybe they're in training, they're ready and holding space to be able to go in two different directions depending on what their senses tell them. So I have a more positive reaction in relationship to this card, and I really like to see how it's depicted. If it's depicted in a more negative manner, maybe that might influence me a little bit, but I really love this card, so it's not going to make or break a deck. The next question is, if there is one card in a deck you really don't like, would you want to miss out on it? So would I not buy a deck if there was a card that I really dislike? I don't think it would take one card in a deck to make me not buy a deck. I tend to like the decks as a whole and like check their vibe in general and see how it all feels. There is one deck in particular that I feel like I should like the deck. The artwork feels like something I would like, but I can't work with it. Anytime I pull it out, my mind is just like completely blank. It's just not the right time for me to work with this deck, I guess. So that's on the shelf. But no, it would take multiple cards to keep me from buying a deck, that's for sure. One of the things that I recently did, and I have a couple of videos, is pulling together my process of creating a magpie deck, because there were some decks that I was curious about, that I had seen some cards that I like and some cards that I didn't. And I wanted to get a better feel for them. So I just took all the best cards that I wanted out of those decks and put them all together and created my own tarot deck, which was really fun. And it's actually one of my favorite decks to work with right now, because every time I pull it out, it's all cards that I like. I never get a card that I'm like, oh, that card, I hate that card. I wish it was different. Like, there's no cards like that in the deck, which is really fun. The next question is, what is your favorite and least favorite card? And so I already went over my few favorites, and those are the cards that I like to check out in the tarot before I buy the deck. But I honestly think that the Devil is probably my least favorite card in the deck. And not because it's the devil and what it stands for. I just don't like the artwork. I think this guy is so ugly. And I'm like, why would you ever fall for his stuff? You know, you can see that he's terrible. So I was thinking, there was one devil that I came across very recently that I was like, this is a devil that would tempt me. And that's the devil in the Earthwoman tarot. I'm like, she will, you know, make me do all my bad habits and I will fall down that rabbit hole. And, you know, I just thought it was so funny because normally I'm just like, oh, it's the devil. Like, yeah, bad habits and negative things and all of that. And so, but that devil, I was like, I get it. I get why it's hard. So I thought that was fun. The next question is, what do people close to you feel about tarot and you doing tarot? So I will say the people who know are very supportive. They're not really interested, but they support that I'm interested. And I guess, you know, if there's one way I'd rather them be, that is it. You know, it's better than being unsupportive. But I do think that they do give me space and let me do my thing, which is fun. They don't really engage with it, so I don't really have a lot of people to sit and talk about, you know, tarot theory and, you know, the meanings and talk that through as much, which, you know, is sad, but that's why I'm on YouTube, hopefully, and making this VR to make some tarot friends. So I do think, you know, that they are supportive. You know, my partner has outright said not to read for him, and that's fine. He's like, you do it, but I'm not interested. But the rest of my family, you know, they're the ones who know, and the ones who are the most important, like, they are very supportive of it. But I have some ideas on how I can, you know, get them more engaged, and we'll see how that goes. The next question is, how do you feel about the esoteric stuff in tarot? And I just have to say, I'm here for it. I love it. I don't necessarily think it has to be used in every single interpretation all the time. You know, I like to have fun with the tarot a little bit, but I do love the different layers that it adds and how you can use it in a more spiritual practice. I do really appreciate that portion of it. The next one is Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, or Marseille. Marseille? I don't even know. And why? So, obviously, Rider-Waite-Smith is what I'm learning right now. It's what I'm getting comfortable with. I want a solid foundation in the Rider-Waite-Smith before I move on, but I do have every intention and every interest in actually learning Thoth. I have, you know, several books, some of them back there, Tarot Mysticism, and some other Thoth books that I really want to work through. And I try to kind of like layer in like bits and pieces here and there just to have an idea or an understanding, but I have not done a deep dive into the Thoth. I'm not really super interested in other traditions, not at the moment anyways, but I'll never say never. Maybe someday that'll interest me, but right now I'm really focused on, you know, really fine-tuning my ability to read Rider-Waite-Smith, and then hopefully Thoth as well. What are your thoughts on cardstock? I don't want to say I don't care. I like a good cardstock. I mean, you know, there are some that feel way better to work with and way better to shuffle, that just feel good in your hand. But, you know, I'm not necessarily a cardstock snob either. One of my favorite decks, the Tarot of a Moon Garden, there's nothing great about that cardstock. You know, it's kind of just a cheaper cardstock. I will say the cardstock that I do not like is when it feels like plastic and it's, you know, shiny and slippery. That's not my favorite. It just feels fake. if that's a thing, like it doesn't feel like it has any emotion to it. It doesn't feel as alive as, you know, a paper cardstock. So yeah, I don't like the plastic feel. Bags or boxes? That's an interesting question. Boxes for sure. I do like a good bag if it's a deck that's like staying out on the desk with me. So like, or if I'm carrying it around. If I'm using it a lot, I like to keep it in a bag because I don't want to jack with opening a box every day, or, you know, multiple times a day. So like, well, obviously my Magpie deck is in a bag because there's no box for that. But if it's, you know, out on the desk, I like to have it protected if it's not one that I'm actively working with. So I will put it in a bag at that point. But for storage purposes, definitely a box. I love to keep it in a box. I will put it in a bag if it's hard to get in and out of a box. So I'm thinking like the Dreaming Way Tarot. That thing is ridiculously difficult to get in and out of its box. So that's going in a bag. It hasn't yet. I just got some bags in, so, but that one is going into a bag this week. I also have a problem with when I do put them in bags, I forget what deck they are if I can't see the label. So I'll lose a deck and be like, find it a few weeks later and be like, oh, what is this? And, you know, then you have, I don't want to say a new deck, but a forgotten deck. So I think that that's kind of funny. And maybe as I have more in bags, I'll be able to remember which ones are in bags and which ones are not. But yeah, definitely a box. That's the easiest way. How did I learn tarot or get into it? I'm still learning, and I'm thinking that it will be a lifelong process, which is great. I love it. I will say when I first got into tarot all those years ago, I had gone through a pretty rough life transition. I was way burnt out at work. I had lost someone close to me. I had started meditating, and I found that very rewarding. And this is going to sound so silly and be like, are you kidding me? Even me thinking, I'm like, this is how you got into tarot, really? So I was sitting there one day watching a show that's based off of books that I really enjoy, called The Magicians. And they were sitting there doing tarot, magic, and all of that. I really enjoy the show. And then I just felt like I needed that in my life. That I could read the tarot, and I was going to read the tarot. So that's kind of what got me into actually reading the tarot. It's not like I hadn't been interested previously. I just never had any like light bulb go off and be like, you should do this. You have permission to do this. And until that moment. And so I was just kind of like, the stars aligned, and I decided, oh, I'm going to read the tarot. And so I tried to get into it, and it was really challenging. I mean, my first deck, you can see it right there, was the Wild Unknown. That is not a deck to learn on, but I tried so hard. But it just wasn't clicking for me. And so it was like this off and on relationship for several years until I put it away for almost probably a year. Like I did consistently do a year ahead spread every year. And I would think, oh, this is the year that I'm really going to get into the tarot. And then I never would be consistent with it. So far, we're doing a really good job this go round. And it's going to sound ridiculous because what spurred me on again this time was another TV show. The Agatha show, the Marvel show. And as I was watching this show, and one of the ladies like shouting out tarot card names before, you realize necessarily that she's shouting out tarot card names, or before, they reveal that. But I knew she was shouting out tarot card names. My partner had no idea. And I was just like, oh, I need to get back into the tarot. Like, now's the time. And it was. And I've been reading the tarot ever since. So I think that was it's really funny that two TV shows kind of inspired me and then re-inspired me to get into the tarot. It feels very silly, but whatever works, right? The best news in the tarot world you heard lately. I'm not sure that I'm really like plugged into the tarot world, but I do really enjoy seeing all the people in the tarot community who support each other and promote each other's channels and engage with each other. I think that's so valuable in this world where people can just kind of go their own way a little bit. And, I could be posting things on YouTube and not really engaging with other people, but that's not the point of it, right? It's for us to build this community. And I know there's people who've been here way longer than me, but I think it's really great that those people are still actively engaged and supporting the rest of the community and teaching the rest of the community. There's so much free content out there. It's really amazing. How many decks are on your to get list? More than there should be. I think I put a new deck on my list like every day. I love Tarotube, but it definitely does not help my impulse buys. Luckily, I try to put them on my wish list and then let them sit there. But there are times where I just buy it, which is not a good thing. I do need to not do that as much. So I do have a lot. I don't know that I have any specifics. There are some Thoth like indie decks that I want to get that are kind of expensive. I'm trying to think of the names of them. But yeah, I mean, a ton of mass market decks that I'm kind of like, I can get it whenever, and so they can sit on my wish list until time comes where I feel like I can just pull the trigger. I'm really trying not to buy any tarot decks for the rest of the month, and hopefully April. Fingers crossed. If I could keep only 3 decks, which ones would I choose and why? That is so hard. I think for sentimental reasons, I would keep my Wild Unknown. It is a first edition. Not that that really matters, but it was my first tarot deck, so I would want to keep that one. And then, oh gosh. I think I would also have to keep my Serpent Fire deck. It's right here. She's right here. I'm obsessed with this deck right now. It just feels like magic to me. I think I'm under a spell because I'm literally obsessed with this deck. It makes me want to meditate and just do walks like in this deck and just journey in the world that is in this deck. Please ignore my fingernail because the nail polish popped off today. And I haven't had a chance to go back to the nail salon. So that's 2. And then this may be cheating, but I would take my Magpie deck. I mean, it's literally every card in the decks that I pulled together that I would like. So every time I lay down a card, it just makes me happy. It's bright colors. It just has really good vibes. I'm loving that deck right now. How does knowing tarot influence your everyday? I find that it feels really comforting. It's like a solid reminder that we're all connected and that, you know, little things can have big impacts. And if you're having a problem or a challenging situation, maybe a little bit of a change of perspective will help you get to whatever solution and answer that you need. That's one thing that I like about the tarot. It kind of just gives you that nudge in a little bit of a different direction. That spark of creativity to get you out of a rut a little bit. But you have to do the work. So, I don't know. It's just like a little bundle of joy. If you could turn back the time, would you have learned tarot any other way? Well, I for darn sure would not have started with the Wild Unknown. I would have straight up gotten a Rider-Waite-Smith. I like the Rider-Waite-Smith art. I would have just started with that. I wouldn't have tried to get all cutesy with it. Now, at the time, I did not appreciate the Rider-Waite-Smith art. And the deck I got, I hated the backs. Let me see. And I still hate the backs. This is the deck I got. And I think these backs are literally the worst. These aren't much better, but I like these better. Which one do you like better? Let me know. But yeah, I would have just started on a Rider-Waite-Smith. Once I started using Rider-Waite-Smith, it clicked. And, you know, I'm still struggling with certain things, you know, court cards. But I feel like I have so much better grasp on the meanings and the imagery and being able to relate to the cards a little bit more. I still enjoy using my Wild Unknown deck, but I definitely would have learned on a different deck. I also would have learned way earlier. I would have wished to have started, you know, when I was a kid, honestly. When I was a kid, I was shy and sheltered and, you know, very easily influenced by family members, and I don't think they would have necessarily disapproved of me doing tarot, but they would have encouraged me not to be weird. Not that it's weird, so not to offend anybody. I do tarot, I love it. But back then, they would have thought it was weird and they would have encouraged me not to do it. And I would have listened, or I did listen. Like, I was too afraid, too nervous, not confident enough to do the things that interested me. And that's one thing I would change, because I would have found so much more joy in the tarot back then. And I think some of the things that challenged me growing up and some of the issues that I went through, I think I would have been able to handle them maybe a little bit better with being able to reflect on that in the tarot. I mean, I did a lot of journaling, so I think that helps immensely. But I think I really enjoy the tarot now, and I do find it so valuable in like self-reflection that I think it would have helped me so much when I was younger. And then I'd have, 20 years of experience by now, which would be so cool. But I'll have that someday. What are your thoughts on the Three of Swords? I get it. I get why people, let me see if I can find it. Hold, please. I get why people don't like this depiction of it, and this makes people think heartbreak. I get it. But sometimes it is heartbreak. Sometimes heartbreak is in your mind, and that's where it hurts the most. So I get why people have different opinions on this, but, I think even with a card with swords going through a heart, you can still read this as like growth of the mind, which is uncomfortable sometimes. Growing pains suck. And I think, it's a pretty accurate depiction of how painful that can be sometimes. But yes, I get that, everyone and their mother think that that means heartbreak. How many decks do you have right now? I'm not 100% sure exactly how many decks I have right now. I have backed a lot of Kickstarters recently, which I have not received, but should get this year, hopefully, maybe. So I think physically in my possession, I have about 100 decks, including Tarot and Oracle. I want to say with like Kickstarters and pre-orders and things of that nature, it's closer to 150. Which kind of sucks because I'm like, oh, look how many decks I have. I have them all in a spreadsheet. Like, look how many decks I have. And I really don't have that many because they're not here yet. And even if I've ordered them and they just haven't come in the mail yet, they're on that list. So there are several that I've ordered recently, impulsively, that are not here yet. But I am on a hiatus for the next month. We'll see. If you could befriend one person on Tarotube or in the tarot world, who would it be? That is impossible to say. I would love to meet and befriend everybody. If you're watching this, reach out. I would love to have a conversation on the tarot, quite frankly. I don't have anybody in my life that wants to talk about the tarot or any of the other more esoteric stuff. So, yeah, I mean, literally everybody. And then the last question, what is your favorite part of the day to do tarot? So I am an early riser. I get up very early and I'm just way more productive. I guess I'm a morning person. I've fought it my whole life, but I guess that's how you would describe me. Because I get up, I do my meditation, my journaling, my taroting, all of that before I work out. I get up most mornings with the intention of going to the gym at 5 a.m., but then I get, especially lately, I get sucked into some tarot study or other book I'm reading. And so I get up with the intention of getting all of it done before I go to the gym, but it typically bleeds over and then I have to work out at home, which is fine. But so I get up at, we'll call it 4. Sometimes it's before 4, but I get up at 4 and do all things tarot for a couple of hours before I have to do a short workout that should be longer and then go to work. I would love to have an evening tarot practice, I'll be honest. When I get home from work, I don't want to do anything. I want to shut my brain off, put it on the couch next to me, and, turn on the TV. I don't even want to read half the time. I don't want to look at a computer screen. For some reason, I'm sometimes okay with watching a TV show. That's a different screen, I guess. But yeah, I just don't have an evening tarot practice. And I would love to be the type of person that does have that. So if anybody has any tips or tricks as to why I don't want to pull any cards or do any self-reflective practices in the evenings and how I can get over that, let me know. So that is my VR to Let's Be Tarot Friends. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I had a lot of fun. Hopefully I will see some more people join in on this. I know there's already a ton out there. I've really enjoyed watching those videos, so I couldn't miss out on the fun. But let me know your thoughts, or if you're doing a video, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see it. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I will see you again soon.